So when I was in my 20s, I wrote this video. I actually took like of all my dating spirit experience, I feel like there are 5 kinds of men that you will date. I took 5 specific kind of men I date that I think all the bad men that I've dated fit into this kind of either one of these archetypes, okay? It was Raphael the romantic terrorist, Phantom Paul, Pablo the psycho, lion ass Luke, and Aiden the Antichrist. Now, I wrote this years ago. Like I wrote this in my mid-20s or so. And it was just so funny. And I find it the other day because one of my friends brought it up and we had to like look it up for me to read this story to him. And I said, you know what? I wasn't a creator back then, but I am now. And I should turn that into a video. So, welcome to 5 terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, super raggedy men. So first up, meet Raphael, the romantic terrorist. Now, I will keep it a stack with everyone. Raphael's actually a pretty lovable guy if he's not your man, okay? He's smart, he's funny, he's a social butterfly, he's family oriented. Honestly, probably a little too much. Dangerously close to codependence at this point if you keep it real. And he was cute. The problem with Raphael is he was also fickle, indecisive, full of actual shit, dream seller extraordinaire, impatient to let things develop, not as self-aware as he should be for a whole psychiatrist, short-sighted, and he will waste every second of your time if you let him. Honestly, it was a little mind-blowing how that to get down some new shit. The thing about Raphael is he does not mean you any harm, and he's not a bad person. He believes 100% of the bullshit that he is saying as it's coming out of his mouth, making him the worst kind of dream seller. If you gave that man a polygraph one day, he would swear he felt the deepest feelings for you and pass with flying colors, and then break up with you the next because he's not feeling it. The man is unwell. The trick to dealing with him is to not. Because the man is a romantic terrorist. We met on a dating app and talked for a little bit, and he had asked me on a date that he scheduled for like 2 to 3 weeks out from the time he asked. By the time the week of the date came around and he texted me trying to see if we were still on, I didn't feel like it anymore, so I didn't answer his text because I thought to myself, what are the odds you're missing out on anything special? Now, silence does not deter Raphael though. I've since learned that. He texted me a short story about how he believed I must not be replying because he wasn't communicating enough before the date, and that was so unfortunate because he's actually very attentive once you've gone out with him and got to know him, blah, 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 blah. So I say, fine, all right, I'll go out with you. But we went out and we hit it off. Within a few days, I had met the brother, his best friends. He told his parents about me, sent everyone and their mama my pictures, showed me every single photo album he has. And y'all, there were a lot. This mama was documenting his life by photo album since the late 80s. I was exhausted. Stayed up every single night talking all night, and he'd run on about how deep his feelings were at length. This is the first week of dating him now, mind you. Then, all of a sudden, I noticed he isn't really texting me for a couple days, so I peep game, okay? I'm a vet, all right? Like, even at that point. So, I texted him and asked if everything was okay, and he didn't respond, so I responded accordingly by deleting his phone number and mentally writing it off as another one bites the dust. Then, at 4 a.m. on a Friday night, you will come to learn in this story that he does his best sending you bullshit at 4 a.m. He responded to my "is everything okay" text that had been sent a whole last day earlier with something to this effect. I think you're amazing, but I just stopped feeling it Sunday. This has never really happened to me before. Sorry if I was rude though. I saw this while I was in Manhattan outside a bar with my friends Chris, mid soapbox about how these men ain't shit. So I saw his text and I didn't reply. I just left it on red, blocked him, and moved on with my life. I liked the man, I guess, but it was a week of my life. Whatever, small things. 2 months later, say it with me, people. 2 whole ass months later, I wake up on a Saturday to a bunch of notifications on my phone. And then I see on my WhatsApp a treatise sent by Raphael that began with, "This is the last thing I'll say." So in my mind, I'm like, last thing he could say? What's the first thing he say? The man was, and is, blocked on my iPhone. So he went to the trouble of hunting me down on WhatsApp. Cool. The message read, and this is the exact message, y'all. Now remind y'all, before I say everything, just understand. Remember what I told y'all the facts of the case were. Now listen to this letter this crazy man sent me. "This is the last thing I'll say. You move too fast for me. and got too casual too fast with me. Nothing wrong with what you did. I'm just a romantic, and it was my fault for not communicating what I was feeling. And I also switched my mindset too fast because I didn't view you as a regular girl. You were 100% girlfriend wife material, so I felt pressured to think about it too fast, which again wasn't you. I just needed to slow down a tad. It was weird timing too because I just dated someone I gave too much of my time to. So when things weren't totally right timing wise, I got scared off too quickly and didn't want to waste any of your time, so I made the wrong decision too quickly. Anyways, ... You're an absolutely genius, sexy, strong-willed person, and it's not a coincidence that I'm sending you texts because this is not a regular practice for me. I'm asking you to put your pride aside for a moment, which is a big mad favor because I cut shit off abruptly and that was probably hurtful, embarrassing, etc. But I'm not your average fish, neither are you, and we do have a connection despite not hanging out that long that needs more exploration, ... And if this comes off as desperate, I don't really give a I'll bare my heart. I'd regret it if I didn't say that I think we actually have real potential. I promise I won't waste your time, Olay. My attention is absolutely yours if you'll have me. I know you're not in the business of honoring apologies, but allowing mistakes is also part of a healthy relationship if amends are actually made, and I'll make them, baby. To be honest, you intimidate me a tiny bit. Not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm a pretty good guy, but I've never really dated someone as awesome and quality as you, ... But I deserve to, so I shouldn't have sabotaged that. I'd love to get really close, ... and everything in between. So just consider it, goddammit. We weren't randoms. Yo, let me tell you something. I want to remind y'all, listeners, as a psychiatrist, Okay, all right. Or a therapist. From there, I go on my Facebook Messenger and check my message requests because I was not and had never been Facebook friends with him at this point. And I discovered that he had been messaging me for 2 weeks there, always at 4 a.m. Those messages read, "Hey, you might have me blocked. I don't think that's a bad practice in general, but I'd like to have a frank conversation with you if you're open to it. I think generally your pride serves you well and you toss aside people appropriately who are wasting your time. But I want to talk to you more because I made a mistake and I'm very much admitting that, ... And my family already loves you, so that doesn't hurt. Anyways, I enjoyed the time together." Let me tell you something. It's so crazy how early 20s me, 31-year-old me has that, and it's like, wow, what a just the amount of manipulation. The man, it's so transparent. But early 20s me thought there was something to decipher, maybe something here. Meanwhile, I could read the man gaslighting me, After sending all these messages throughout my friend group to be assessed and voted on by a bunch of other dumbass early 20s bitches, they all decided that he seemed genuine and he deserved a second chance. Although, except Chris. I must give my boy Chris his credit and let the record reflect that he was the one friend that dissented. When he read Raphael's messages, he was not moved. He said, quote, "What a psychopath. Why are you sending those kinds of messages to a girl you dated for 1 week after 2 months? Block him." Lord, I should have listened to Chris, child. Majority rules, though, so I went against my strict cutoff policy and gave him another chance, because early 20s, dumb, huge, child, the mistake. So we dated this time around for another 3 weeks, where I spent copious amounts of time at his home, at his request, with his family and friends, who I should mention are wonderful people and are not to be conflated into this critique of Raphael. And overall, just doing a bunch of shit I would never do on my own because I'm thoughtful and whatnot. Every weekend, this man provided me with a whole itinerary of shit I had to do with him. This could sound cute to the unsuspecting ear, but I was a public defender with a large caseload and I used to work tons of weekend arraignment shifts. So I was doing nimble gymnastics trying to do all this unnecessary shit for the sake of the romantic he deems himself. For example, I was dragged to see The Lion King in theaters and to a follow-up party with him and a group of 30 people that I not only did not know, but neither did he. He was like the acquaintance of one of these people. So you know this night sucked. But it's not just seeing the movie though. We didn't just have to see the movie with these people I don't know. We had to dress up in costumes, and that became my job, the busy public defender, to find both of our matching costumes for this bullshit he want to do.
Do I have to do everything myself?
Now, people, this isn't essential to the story, but I was still tight about it when I wrote it. So you should know that I was a long-time mocker of people who dress up as couples for Halloween and stuff like that. To me at the time, it was up there with making your Instagram profile picture a couple's picture or having your significant other's name or anniversary in your bio or something like relax, damn, we get it. But I did it. I found time in my busy work week to scour the internet until I found someone on Etsy who made Scar and Shenzi masks, paid disproportionately so they could be made and shipped in time for this dumbass event, and we went. And we were cute. I'll give it that. We were cute. Not that it mattered at the time. It's not like I could have posted any of the pictures anywhere because that man was dead to me. And I spent that entire weekend doing everything he wanted and meeting everyone he wanted me to. Then, on Monday of the following week, which was my birthday week, just FYI, something just felt off. So once again, I messaged this man, is everything okay? He saw the message and didn't reply. So yet again, I peeped game. So I sent a message telling him that it seems like he's getting ready to pull the same shit he did the first time. So if that's the case, let's just call it a wrap. I don't like dragging shit out. This man responded with a bunch of hogwash, but the notable quote was, quote, "Unfortunately, my feelings have been shifting because I had expected and hoped the love would develop." End quote. Important note, we dated for 3 weeks, and his issue is that he wasn't in love yet. I just could leave that right there. Now, he offered to discuss his feelings with me, and I explicitly declined the offer. I said, quote, "No, that's okay. No worries." Deleted his contact information and all photos or evidence of having previously known him. And I was gonna let that rock because what do we have to discuss? I don't need no give me his subjective reasons for why he's on my run. You ain't my dad. Next. But that did not stop him from deciding he was could continuously message me more messages, trying to explain his actions and rationale that I just told him I didn't want. But the part that stood out to me in all this bullshit he kept sending my phone was, quote, "Oh, I'm sorry if I led you on though." If you sorry if you led me on? I say, oh, okay, you done wake Snorlax up. You wake me up, all right. I broke my silence is the loudest kind of noise policy, and I told him what I'm telling you all. The most annoying part of his fickle and indecisive bullshit is how little accountability he takes when he does it. Please refer to his earlier begging ass messages and compare and contrast it to the shit he sent at me when he changed his mind. It's all real emotional when he's in his feelings. Then I'm an ice queen that discards people when I don't reply to a man's pleas that dump me via text because we weren't randoms, goddammit. But when he's dumping me, it gets real professional and hurt real quick, okay? Anyhow, fickle and indecisive was clearly the indictment of the century because he continued to go off for about an hour. I get it, you know. A thing he and I have in common is that we hate being mischaracterized. But this wasn't a mischaracterization though. He has demonstrated that he is fickle and indecisive. It is a certified fact. And I wasn't saying he's malicious. I didn't believe he intended to hurt me or anyone else. I believe that he feels all his emotions very saliently when he feels them. So he believes what he's telling you when he's drinking you to death. But the issue is he's got the emotional and romantic shelf life of avocado, and he is too impatient to refrain from making decisions the moment a feeling crosses him. So what you're left with is a wishy-washy. Finally, I told him to please stop providing me with any further insight or clarification as to his thoughts or feelings because it was moot. I did not care, and it was likely a waste of energy on his part for him to tell me how he feels when I believe wholeheartedly his feelings change like the weather in Ohio. To which he replied that I was intent on demonizing him as fickle, and I said, right. That Saturday night, say it with me, people. That Saturday night, he messaged me on Facebook because I had failed to cover this space on blocking him because that was when Facebook just made it so you had to separately block people on both Facebook and Facebook Messenger. Go figure. So he messages me at, you guessed it, 4 a.m. I must forget to tell y'all this breakup happened my birthday week. Lord, this dog. So anyway, he messaged me, "You have a good birthday night, birthday girl? Ignore me. But if you want some discreet dick, I'm in the shadows." What? I mean, if you want some discreet, you've got some discreet dick for me in the shadows?
I don't want it.
Only the Lord could tell y'all what kind of liquor this man was drinking that led him to send me this Ted Bundy ass message. But you see what I'm saying about him being fickle? He could not keep the same energy for a week. So I ignored him. Then maybe 2 weeks later, I message him back and I say, "Do you want to be friends?" Now, guys, it's important that remember, the last offer made in our conversation was his offer of dick in the shadows. So I thought my counteroffer of friendship was mad mild by comparison. This man starts typing for 15 whole ass minutes before he eventually sends me this whole ass telenovela. The first half of the message was a bunch of dick talk, but the second part tells me he's just recently met someone that, quote, despite you calling me fickle and indecisive, I feel very consistently romantically strong for her. Oh, is that right? Oh, okay. So then he inundates me with tons of unsolicited information about how life is so great now because of how much he likes this girl, blah, 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 that he would have to check with her about whether or not we could be friends to see how she would feel about that, blah, 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 blah. That he's learned that despite me calling him fickle and indecisive, he actually can trust his feelings if he actually listens to them, blah, blah, blah. He's not in a relationship yet, but he hopes to be, ah. So I read all of this and I'm rolling my eyes deep into my soul, like, okay, oh, right. You just met the one the moment we break up and you feel so strongly about it. Like, yeah, okay. You were just offering me dick in the shadows 2 weeks ago, but now you gotta check with this anonymous woman about how she would feel about us being friends. Lord, could talk, yeah. The time I had for the nonsense is none. So I say to him a few times, oh, but don't let me interrupt what you and old girl got going on. Scratch the friendship thing. Good luck. Enjoy your life, man. This man then asked me if he could reach out to me if things don't work out with her. Lord, man could kill. Now, meet Phantom Paul, who's probably my favorite man on this list. Like, he probably is the only one on these 5 raggedy men that is, like, likable. You know what I mean? Like, upon further reflection in my old age, right? Like, he is a nice guy. I always say that all dogs come back home eventually. Whether they've been gone for weeks, months, or years, eventually, you always hear from the men of your past. Except for Paul. That man's a ghost. After you've defeated all the men who will ghost you, Paul is the final ghost you must face. I don't have many conclusions I can definitively draw about Paul. I have a few dots that I have tried to connect, but mostly I've kind of just chalked this one up to God. I'm just gonna lay this one out to y'all with a little bit of what I know and y'all can take a stab at it, okay? The only thing I can tell you about Paul without a shadow of a doubt is that he will ghost the entire out of a woman. Play with him if you want. Paul vanished, never to be heard from again. Unless you count what I think he thought was super stealthy cyber stalking, but I was seeing him though. If he'd have kept his ass off my Snapchat story at the time I was writing these about Raphael, I may have forgotten to include him on the list. But Paul stands out to me because 1, I really liked him at the time, and 2, when I think of him now, I don't get the urge to spot or kick him in the chest. Dating him was kind of like dating Winnie the Pooh. He was a little chunky in a huscular kind of way. He was really sweet. He was always smiling, really funny. We had a lot in common. And who does not love Winnie the Pooh? Well, you know what's funny? When you write these things now, like at the time I said, Paul is either the one that got away, ran away, hauled ass really, or a clinically insane bullet I dodged. I said it's unclear. The jury's still out. It was very clear. It's definitely the second, a clinically insane bullet. Absolutely not the one that got away. Now, I generally do not discuss my sex life. I'm not a sex talking gal publicly. That is not me. I don't believe in that. But I cannot really see a way around it if I'm gonna tell y'all about Paul. Because my working theory is that's where shit hit the fan with us, okay? Try follow along. Paul and I were consistently dating for a few months and we were not having sex. Nothing wrong with this, but it wasn't a decision that I had made or played a part in. It was just a thing that always seemed like it was gonna happen, but wasn't happening, and no explanation was being provided. But whatever. He was great, and God forbid one man not be trying to sleep with me, so I didn't think there was a real issue worth ruminating on. Till one day, Paul told me a story about him getting drunk in high school at a party, getting ass naked, and then a friend or a friend's dad, I forget who, saw his dick, pointed and yelled that it was small. But the way Paul told the story though, it wasn't just that the person called it small just to tease him or because that's how men fuck with each other. The person exclaimed it in an, oh God, I've never seen no shit that small, I can't help but react kind of way. This was conveyed to me because he looked embarrassed when he said it. My gut reaction was to try to take the heat off him. So I said something like, oh my God, that guy's a dick for saying that. Why would he say that? And Paul gave me this look like, so I was like, wait, he didn't say anything. So he didn't say anything, but the look was given, look, bitch, it's small. This is me putting you on constructive notice. Don't act surprised later kind of way. So I received the look. I mentally noted it as all right. So he's small, but otherwise amazing. I could live with that. No big deal, right? Cool. On our next date, our last date, I should add, we were finally going to do it. Or we did it. Also unclear. So we were making out and all that jazz. He's on top of me. And I guess what had happened was he must have pulled it out and put it in. But I didn't know because I didn't feel it. So I asked him to put it in. And he said it's already in. And I said, oh, okay. Y'all, when I tell y'all, that man eject himself from me and propel himself to the other end of the couch so fast, I know what happened. Then he just started like rambling about whether he'd asked me for consent and just kind of started moping to himself on the couch. So I'm there trying to help, but overall just like, okay, evening concluded, I guess. After that, we were still together and talking like usual. But the day before our next date, Paul messages me and tells me we have to reschedule our date because he passed out on the sidewalk outside of work and broke his nose. Now, this is where shit gets wild. This is the point in the story where I think I get lost in whatever Paul was doing. And I'm still not sure what happened to this day because I saw the injury with my own two eyes, He sent me a video on Snapchat of his face when it happened, and he certainly was all f***ed up. Nose busted, stitches, and all that. Now, the question is, did Paul actually pass out outside of work, or did he intentionally bang his head onto a table to put into motion an elaborate escape plan out the relationship? If the second option sounds insane to you, that's because you don't know Paul may or may not be a lunatic. To better answer that question and follow along with the rest of what happens, it's important that you know that he once told me that he slept with a woman who really liked him and she was going over to his place to see him and he didn't want her to. So you know what Paul did? If you guess, tell her not to come over anymore, that he didn't reciprocate her feelings. Ding, 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 wrong. Because that would be way too reasonable. Paul decided it would be easier to pack a bag like he was in Bird Box, vacate his home, and hide at a friend's home for an entire weekend while he pretended to be away and dodged the girl's calls. Paul does not handle conflict or stress well. Back to Paul passing out. So after he passes out and breaks his nose, Paul tells me he's going to his parents' home for the weekend so they could take care of him. Now, I think Paul was at least a good 32 at the time, but I'm going to let him live. At the end of the weekend, when Paul was supposed to return to Brooklyn, he tells me that he's going to stay at his parents' home longer because the doctors can't figure out what's wrong with him.
Ligma.
Now, this was a glass half full, glass half empty type of situation. Here's the thing. I am not a doctor, and I do not have Paul's medical records, nor have I spoken to him. So this isn't a fact. But I'm pretty sure the reason the doctors didn't find anything wrong with Paul was because ain't shit was wrong with Paul. Paul had been obsessing over some project at work. He had not slept for like 2 days. And if memory serves me correctly, he hadn't eaten and he'd been drinking a lot of coffee to stay up. That's why Paul's ass hit the ground. It was not that deep. But Paul is one of those people who Googles his cold symptoms and lets Google convince him he's going to die.
What is this pain on the side of my stomach? Pregnancy. Oh. I got scared for a second. I'm a man.
So whereas a normal person would have interpreted that as good news, the doctors are saying nothing's wrong with me, what Paul heard was, the doctors can't find what's wrong with me, and there's certainly something wrong with me. So prepare for the end, because I could die. Therefore, he allegedly up and abandons his home and job in Brooklyn and stays at his folks' place. Nevertheless, at the time, I was really sympathetic and supportive because I had no reason to question any of this. Then, maybe after a week or two, he sends me the following text. Hey, sorry, been with the doctors like all the time. I'm gonna take a month off of work and figure this shit out. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think everything's perfect health-wise. I'm gonna go live at home for a bit. I don't want this to be the end of us or the amazing start we had, but I'm in this shitty place both mentally and physically, and it's not fair to you. I'm really sorry I haven't been more communicative throughout the past weeks. I've been scared and depressed and running around. No, you've been really supportive, and I haven't been handling this situation well at all. I mean, on a deep psyche level, I have a huge issue with being a weak link or being a burden to people. Similar shit has happened to me before, where I just become a hermit because I feel like I'm cancerous or a burden to people. I can't explain it. Therapy hopefully will, but I didn't communicate enough with you, and that's on me. No excuses. This isn't the best me right now, and I'm shielding you from it or something. I don't know. Thank you, I'm gonna be in Buffalo getting tests and shit for the next few weeks / 10 days. I promise I will let you in and be vulnerable when I get back. Now, I know you see all these promises about letting me know what was going on when he returned from Buffalo and all that, but this is the end of the story, guys. We never spoke since. Not a single word. What he did do, however, was stalk me on Instagram for the next 6 months religiously. He viewed every single story I posted immediately, always at the top of the list, because this was back when the Instagram algorithm used to order your story viewers based on people who stalk your profile the most, until one day, the up and blocked me on Instagram. Then he would occasionally lurk on my Snapchat stories, but I still don't have the answers. Was he ever in Buffalo getting tests done? Was he just hiding in his apartment all along? Did he actually break his nose? Or did he have a makeup artist from the set of Scream get him together to make the video to send me? The world may never know. Now, that was the written story, but I will say, you know what was funny? Imagine writing this story talking about how Paul is the one man you'll never hear from. The day I had published that story on my Medium, the day of that messaged me on Snapchat immediately. And I remember I was so scared because I was like, oh, this coming around me about telling the people his dick small. But he was just like, what did he say? I remember I was so scared to open the Snapchat, and then he was just like, first I went to, be upset, but then I was like, this is an excellent story. He was like, this was written so well. This was so entertaining. And we did end up like going. He was like, oh, I could update you on what happened. And we went to go get coffee. And I promise you, he never explained it. He said something like, your suspicions were correct. But I'm like, what suspicions? I had a lot of suspicions. I don't know what the was true in your story, but I didn't push it because who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Who cares about what your ex was on about? He's a nice guy though. Like, we are friends on social media. He's married now. We like Phantom Paul, but the archetype of ghosting ass. Anyhow, okay. The next man we have to meet is Pablo the Psycho, and I just want y'all to know, I tired just thinking about it. Like, and what's crazy? In the story that I'm about to read you that I wrote back then, because again, this is a story from my early 20s. When I wrote this story, I was exhausted, and I still exhausted thinking about it. But when I started this series, my big sister was like, oh, you have to do him. You have to write the Pablo story. So get ready for Pablo the Psycho. Now, it's important that you understand right out the gate that Pablo was, and I cannot stress this enough, out of his mind. I mean, out of his rabbit ass mind. Beginning to end, everything about him and this relationship was so insane. I get exhausted at the thought of it. Okay, like I generally really like to pretend he never existed because I really don't like this part of my dating resume, and God just knows I do not ever want to risk summoning that man. But my sisters insisted that I would not be doing this series justice without him. So here we go. I will say the wonderful thing, telling stories like this makes me like appreciate my 30s so much. Like, I love to feel a decade removed to some shit. Like, oh, this is so old. Like, statute of limitations done clear this. This is not even on my charges. Like, Pablo was about 21 years old at the time. He had green eyes. He was Dominican. He was fine, I guess. Like, when annoy you when he don't even look good no more. But anyway, at the time, I thought he was fine. He looked like trouble because he sure was trouble, and I should have left his ass the alone, because what I didn't know was that he was like them murderous, jealous women you see in Lifetime movies, and he collects bitches as a means of providing him shelter. The homosexual. We met one day downtown Brooklyn during one of my many breakups with the worst boyfriend I've ever had. I will refer to him throughout this story as Satan. Don't worry, his story is coming. I need to build up the energy first because phew. But Pablo approached me on the street and we exchanged numbers because, like I said, he was fine. Now, the next day, we went out on my lunch break from work, and I'll be fair to him. He gave me more than enough red flags at the time for me to have exercised better decision making and not with him. But this was not my finest hour, because 20-something-year-old bitches be dumb. It was me. I was dumb. So, red flag number 1. He told me the last ex-girlfriend he had gotten pregnant before he went upstate. You know where upstate is. With a baby he initially thought was his, but turned out to be this other guy baby she was cheating on him with. So he claimed, okay. Red flag number 2, he had an Android cell phone. Oh, child. So I should have scrapped this right then and there. But in my mind, I thought he was so adorable despite what the he was telling me. I figured he was harmless. So let me tell you where I up everyone. Immediately. I up immediately. I let him come to my apartment one time, and I thought I could continue living my life the way I'd been living it. Wrong, bitch. So wrong. After that, this immediately texted me being like, you mine, right?
What the fuck?
So I responded with something like, because I was a pimp at the time. What you mean? I said, what you mean? And he was like,
I'll kill any other if I even dream of dealing with them.
oh my God. And I was like, but that would be wild, right? Because we're not a couple. And he was like,
Play with me if you want.
I'm in danger.
Following this, I could not get rid of this Like, listen to me. The moment he entered my apartment, he was laser focused on trying to move in, and I could not get him out. So every day that week, he was at my place, not via my request. At first, I thought it was cute. Why? Because I had gotten sick one night, and he went and got me medicine from the bodega. So I felt uncharacteristically infatuated. But then I started coming home, and he would be inside my house already without any invitation, because he'd just go there and tell my roommates I told him to wait on me, which was a lie. Then, listen, I'm a cantankerous old bitch, and that cantankerous old bitch that I suppressed within me was like, get him the out of your house. So I kindly told him something to the effect of, hey babe, I've got a lot of work to do for school this week, and I'm preparing for exams soon, so you can't come over during the week. I'll see you on the weekend. He seemed to be okay with that, and I was relieved, my own space again. But no, the next day, he starts talking about moving in.
What the fuck?
This was either the second or third week of knowing him people. So obviously I say hell no. Then I asked him for space while I focused on schoolwork that day. He says sure. So I feel relieved for a moment until I get a phone call from someone I'm pretty sure was his parole officer asking for my address because he was telling them he may be moving there.
Absolutely not.
So I call Pablo about it and he plays crazy. Then, maybe a couple of days later, Pablo starts texting and blowing me up at work, telling me that he's suddenly being kicked out of his place and things were thrown out of the building, so he has nowhere to go with all his things, and he's lost his job, so he needs somewhere to stay. Job and place. The man say he losing both. All of a sudden, because he cannot pick a struggle. Now, moving on. It was obviously the moment that I was supposed to go mi casa, su casa. So I was seriously considering it because I used to have a real Captain Fix-It thing about me, dog. Listen. So I called one of my friends, Ashley, and I told her about it. And y'all, I ain't gonna lie. Listen, I am not gonna lie to y'all. Let me make sure I give Ashley her props. Ashley tried to warn me. She really tried. But what everyone has to understand is that I was a jackass. Ashley, when I was writing this, Ashley reminded me specifically of how it went down. Ashley said, quote, I said, Olay me, I don't think that's a good idea. And you said, what the f you mean? And I said, Olay me, you don't like people in your space. And you said, what the f you mean? I don't like people in my space, and hung up. Ash says it was the most gratifying curse out because as I was cursing out, she said she was saying to herself, okay, no, that's okay. She could call me back later mad when that house. Ash saying, sure enough, I called her that afternoon when he got there and I said, Ash, yeah, this ain't gonna work. This is not gonna work. And Ashley said to make sure that I tell y'all that when I called her back with no humility. So he moved his things in that afternoon and I told him he could stay for 2 weeks while he finds a place in a new job. 2 weeks. Little did I know this boy had big plans to turn my life into a love and hip hop storyline. God. Now, within about 2 days, I was about ready to kill my self. It became very clear to me almost immediately that I had been hustled, bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray because he wasn't even trying to pretend to look for a job. I remember I applied to some state colleges for him and he wouldn't give them the necessary paperwork. When I tried to put him in contact with my broker for him to find a place, he got extremely upset and wouldn't reply to the broker. Then he would steal my Metro card while I was sleeping and emptying it. He was begging me for money to buy loose cigarettes, had his siblings in my place trying to stay there too. And last but not least, this tried to change the channel while I was watching How I Met Your Mother. A bugaboo. So then, one Sunday, he was off gallivanting through Queens with my Metro card, and I was home studying for an exam. I took a break to scroll through my Instagram feed when I see a post of him and a baby. And this telling Instagram he's so excited to tell him about his son.
Well, excuse the fuck out of me.
Yo, I couldn't believe my goddamn eyes. Like, what in the tales from the hood is this? Immediately, I text him a screenshot asking what the was this? And I took an Uber to my friend's house. He tells me, oh, he was gonna wait until he got home to talk to me about it. So I respond like any rational human being in my position would have said by asking, what? You gonna wait until you get home to my house where you're staying to tell me you have a child, but you could first announce it on Instagram? This boy then tells me that, first of all, he don't gotta tell me anything because that's his son, but that he was walking through his ex-girlfriend's neighborhood. The one from the story about the baby he said with some other guys. Say he was walking through a parent's neighborhood in Queens and just happened to see the child and just knew instinctively that was his son. Ran over and took a photo shoot with the child and put it on Instagram and now hopes to be trying to see the child in my apartment on weekends. Let me tell y'all something. He had me a little bit past all the way up. As a matter of fact, he had himself up because I don't do nobody's baby mama drama, none of that. you and them kids. So I told him he needs to get the out immediately. I wanted him out of my apartment before I got back home. This boy dead ass refused. Straight up told me he wasn't going nowhere. I say, what?
What?
So I jumped in an Uber when I get back to my place. Sure enough, he's there, laid up on my futon with his legs kicked out like it's all good. I tell him get out. He ignored me. I told him again. He ignored me. Then he tried to come and hug and kiss me, and I push him away. At this point, I'm standing there in this alternate universe trying to figure out how the I could even possibly find myself in a situation where I'm telling him to leave my house and he's dead ass refusing. So I keep screaming for him to leave and he's just telling me he's not going anywhere. What the At this point, the only thing that makes sense now is violence. So I remove my paddle from the wall and I'm basically trying to go upside his head for real. And he still wouldn't leave. The next day, I took him to, I remember, like, if you know vividly, I remember this whole story. The next day, I took him to this Dominican restaurant of my neighbor and I told him, quote, hella sign like this. Listen, I think you're a great person and we can be friends and I can help you with getting your stuff together, but I cannot be a part of these tales from the hood on a romantic level and I don't want to be with you. I could let you stay with me for a little bit longer while you find a place, but we are not a couple. He said he understood. Then we left the restaurant. Then he started holding my hand like we were a couple. So I say, what? So I realized, okay, it didn't take. Let me try this again. So the following day, I took him back to the exact same restaurant and I said, okay, I think something might have gotten lost in translation yesterday. We are not a couple. We are not together. You are you and I am me. We do not go together. We are separate individuals. Please be free. Certainly now, it must take, right? Wrong. The following night, I'm in my room and I open a Snapchat some guy sent me of him showering. Not like the guy was ass naked in the shower. It was just his face in the shower. Two things though. One, this Snapchat was unsolicited. Two, I was single. Pablo sees the snap, starts screaming and carrying on, storms out and then sends me this, pretending he meant to send it to a third party about me. Then a couple of days after that, I was getting ready for work in my bathroom and then he approached me with my cell phone in his hand, super pissed, and asked me, who's Jamar? And I answered, that's my ex-boyfriend from the 10th grade. And he asked, can I read the messages? And I said, I don't see why you would need to because we are not together and there's nothing to see, but whatever. And I unlocked the phone and continued getting ready. Pablo shuffled away with the phone. Then when I walked out of the bathroom, he starts screaming at me that there's a deleted portion of the conversation. At this point, I am confusion and confusion is me. I had not deleted a thing out of that conversation, which I told him, and he just started screaming, I know what Facebook messages look like when they've been deleted. I decided right then and there that this boy was mad as a hatter. So he stormed up the stairs, seemingly expecting me to follow him. I went to work. Now, as I'm at work, I'm on the phone with my friends, trying to figure out exactly how to get this boy out because I don't want to call the police on him and give the boy a criminal case. And at this point, I think he's insane, but I still feel very sorry for him, and I didn't want to seem like a villain for just leaving him to figure his shit out alone. Then I scroll my Instagram and I see a picture of this in my bed flipping me the bird with a caption about me because I'm a bitch and all this and that. I say, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. That's the smoking gun I needed. I'm off the hook. Get this the out. So I jump on the train and I head home and he's not there. Yes. I throw all his fucking shit out into the hallway. Nicely though. I sacrificed my suitcases. I bought him a blanket in his favorite color so he could wrap his ass in it away from my place, locked my doors and went inside. Now, he gets back to my apartment around 4 p.m. and he stayed there. I shit you not. This boy stayed in my hallway crying and screaming until midnight. So eventually, my white neighbors start texting me. So then I had to get it under control. This boy is alerting the whites. So I walked outside to him in the hallway. He immediately grabbed my phone like Swipe of the Fox and ran the away. I say, dog, what the So I went back inside because I said to myself, whatever, I'll get the phone eventually. When I go back outside later, he's holding my phone crying and he screamed at me like an old dramatic bitch. Quote, when are you free? Which I immediately knew was 100% a text I sent to another nigga on my phone. But I reply, what are you talking about? And he starts reciting the remainder of the conversation and I realized I said, this Looney Tune ass somehow acquired the password to my phone and has been going through my shit all along. Then he starts screaming, quote, I love you, but I'm starting to get the impression you don't want to be with me. You starting to get the impression? What you mean you starting to get the impression I don't want to be with you? What? I've broken up with you twice, weeks ago, and now you are sitting outside of my home with your things that I have put out, and you are starting to get the impression I don't want to be with you?
What?
So, at this point, I resigned to this boy being insane, and I retired to my chambers. The following night, I go out dancing with my friends. when I get home, I walking past my desk and I see my yellow legal pad on the desk. And I see my green pen open on top of it. And I thought to myself, that was strange. Because I know damn well I would never leave my green pen open to dry out. But I shrugged it off. Then a few days later, Pablo messages me on Facebook and says, quote,
This is the last message I'll ever send, but you should really check your laundry. Goodbye, Favor.
what the actual I read it and I'm sitting there mad as hell because my initial thought is that this boy is trying to say I never do laundry or something shady. So I sitting there looking across my room at the laundry basket and there's barely anything in it. So I just roll my eyes. But as time passes, I'm getting scared. So I walk over to the basket and I dump it out. On the bottom of my basket, under the clothes, this boy had placed a letter written on my yellow legal pad with my green pen. This broke into my home, wrote a letter on my shit, put it in my laundry basket so that he could later reveal it to me in dramatic fashion. Then it just so happened to be the craziest letter of all time. Look here, look at the letter. You see this? He's referring to the song Change by Trey Songz. And actually, you should know, anything Trey Songz is the song for the soundtrack. Like, it's crazy. But the man is trying to provide me with a soundtrack to his letter. And I want y'all to know I have never listened to that song on principle. And honestly, the letter's so crazy, I can't even bring myself. It would exhaust me to read that crazy ass letter right now. From there, he starts messaging me on Facebook, telling me he's living in a van now, and he hopes I'm happy. And then he starts DMing one of my friends on Instagram about how I've ruined his life, yada, yada, yada. The next morning, I contacted my apartment complex and told them to change the access code to the building. Best decision I ever made, because in that night, my on and off again boyfriend Satan decided to take me for food and then come back to my place so he could try to convince me to get back together. As I'm in my room with Satan, Pablo starts blowing my phone up with one crazy text after another. So then he keeps calling repeatedly and I keep ignoring the calls because one, he's insane, and two, Satan is there and he had no idea who the Pablo was, and I was trying to keep it that way until eventually Satan makes me answer the call. The moment I pick up the call, Satan and I hear Pablo's voice echo outside of my bedroom window, crying and screaming, this going, I can see him in there! I can see him in there! I have never been so scared in my goddamn life. I told Satan to stay right there while I go outside to talk to him. Satan was white, so he said hell no and called the police. As this is going on, Pablo is still sending crazy messages. First, he messages me on Facebook. Then he sends this crazy ass message continually from a bunch of different numbers via text. Like, y'all got the balls. I read this one to y'all. This one say, took me for granted, made me look like a plain fool to everybody. And there's that look in your eyes. I've mentioned about it. I knew it. You destroyed my life and played the victim the whole time. I would have asked how you could sleep at night, but I could see peacefully with him in your bed. You played me and destroyed my life more than it ever was. The entire night I've been outside. Everything I said was just to see and hear your reaction, but you and him. But I won't bother you or him. It was a fair game. He got you. I can't be mad at that. You violated me. I can't be mad at that either. To be honest, you did nothing wrong. It was a fair game and I lost at the end. Enjoy yourself. I hope he makes you happy. I hope everything works how you planned it. Go achieve all your goals in life and become more successful. Remain focused in life and be safe. You and him have a good night. So I responded like a sane person and I said, stop texting me. I reported this to the police and I'm getting a restraining order. Stop texting me. This is absolutely insane. You out of your goddamn mind. Leave me the fuck alone. Get out of my life. I have tried to help you and you're out of your mind. Stop it, please. For the love of God, I am terrified. This is scary and crazy. Then this up each and every one of my 3 sisters, all of whom he had never met, and messaged all of them the following message. This one features my big sister's response. He messaged all my sisters and he say, your sister played me with her ex and they're together in a bed. Hope she have a good life with him. Tell her thanks for destroying my life even more than it was already. Made me lose my place and my job and played me. My big sister, a true baby pip. She said, oh wow, sad. But I will laugh. After this, I was reasonably shook for months. I was Ubering everywhere for the next few weeks because I was convinced he was lurking on every corner. Then, after 9 months, when I'd finally stopped looking over my shoulder, I get on the train at Broadway Junction and no one's on it. But then I hear someone go, well, well, well. And I look up and there's Pablo grinning at me like a whole psychopath. The moment I see him, the doors close and I realize I'm trapped on this train with him and there's nowhere to go. So I nervously try to smile and be like, hey. I think to myself, wow, this is really how it ends. So he sits next to me and he just stares at me, grinning, repeatedly saying,
You funny. You real funny, yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
So I say, okay, talk. He says,
No, we're gonna talk when we get off the train.
I'm laughing nervously like, oh no, let's just talk right here. But he wouldn't. At this point, I had moved to a new apartment. I lived in the same general neighborhood, but a different apartment. And the last thing I needed was for this crazy nowhere. So when the train stops, I start power walking and he's following behind me. So I stop on the corner outside of the station so there would be witnesses. And I insist we just talk there. So he looks at me and he basically asked me to admit that I played him. And I'm looking at this nigga like, so I make a decision that if this is how it ends, I might as well keep it real. And I say to him, you mean to tell me that after 9 whole ass months, you don't realize that you're the one who's out of your mind? Then he says, quote,
I admit maybe I'm a little bit crazy, but imagine me seeing you with him.
Again. So I reply, no, Nick, you created your own peril. You weren't just like at the mall and you happened to see me with another guy and so your feelings were hurt. We were not together and you were stalking me and peering through my goddamn window. You don't get no sympathy. And then he told me he got a new phone and asked for my phone number. So I look at him, he looks at me, I look at him, and then I break off fucking running until I lose him. And that's the end. Unless this summons him. Now it's time to meet lion-ass Luke. Luke and Raphael are actually in the same family of natural disasters as far as indecisiveness goes. The difference is just that Raphael is a full-blown hurricane, while Luke is only a tropical storm. Do y'all remember how Chandler from Friends would be dumping bitches for all manner of frivolous reasons? Every woman had a critical defect to him, all kinds of silly shit, like he ain't like her laugh, or he couldn't stand out her forehead be glistening in the sun, she'd be walking too slow, always something. That's Luke. Luke was intelligent, successful, serious, practical, with a little bit of an air of pretentiousness about him through no real fault of his own. But there are levels to Luke. He's also mixed with a dash of lion-ass because life is about balance, people. Luke and I dated exclusively for a few months, and it generally was smooth sailing all around. I liked him, mostly because he spoke my love language, consistency. Luke was consistent right up until the moment he wasn't. Then he just kind of short-circuited. Things were all good until Luke went home to visit for a couple of weeks. The moment his plane landed, he started falling off. Extra, read all about it. These acting kind of different. So I peeped game. I figured he was probably out there pillow talking with an ex at home. You know how that goes. And I anticipated either a disappearing act like Paul or a breakup with some excuse to be followed by the eventual inevitable regretful plea like Raphael. Then, right on schedule, because the bullshit's never late, Luke messaged me telling me he wanted to talk to me later that night because he couldn't just say what he needed to say and go. He needed to first give me a anxiety attack waiting for him to announce that he getting traded to Miami. The drama. Later that night, I was ready for the breakup. At that point, I was expecting it, so I wasn't sweating it. I really was just waiting to hear what excuse he was going to offer. So, Luke texted me, and he did not disappoint. These were his words, people. Luke tells me he's got to be super rational about this. He has to break up with me because I like TV. Not like TV too much, people. No, just liked it. Liked it at all. You know, like everybody else in modern civilization. This, people, is why Luke had a special place in my heart. Luke was the man that reminded me that after spending my life in school to get my bachelor's, my JD, pass the bar, become a public defender, all while delicately maintaining a status of curvy. And I say delicately because Jesus did not see it fit to give me expanding hips. I'm always one Rice Krispie treat away from my waist abortion mission on this whole operation. But after all that, a man would one day tell me that the reason he has got to break up with me is because I like TV. I just could not believe that he made me wait all day and he did not take time to cook up a better excuse than that. Listen, I'm not saying there isn't a world where it's conceivable that TV could be a legitimate reason to break up. It just was in this world. If I was someone in my home all day and night watching TV and it was all I talked about and it's all I did with him, that's the world where I could conceive it. But in that world right then, I was a lawyer that worked all the time. Luke and I mostly discussed law, politics, and society, and the only time we ever watched TV together was to watch MTV's Are You the One? And he got so invested in the show, he got out his laptop and started creating an algorithm to figure out who the perfect matches were and did additional research. Oh, come on! But I like TV. This out here making algorithms to guess MTV's perfect matches. But I like TV. He changed his name on Uber to an Inception movie character. But I like TV. Okay. Nevertheless, while I thought it was ridiculous, it wasn't a big deal, so I let it rock. We broke up, I deleted him, and carried on with my life. Small things. About a month passes, and I get a request from Luke to follow me on Instagram. Okay, no problem. A couple of days after that, he texts me wishing me a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It wasn't Christmas, but okay. About a week later, he messages me at 11 p.m. and asks me if I'd like to go out with him the following Friday, and I agreed. 6 a.m. the following day. 6 a.m. Meaning the time it took for me to agree to go out with him at 11 and him to go to sleep and wake up, he sends me this. Honestly, I thought about this more and this probably isn't a good idea for us. I still like you and I think we're an amazing fit in some ways, but not in others. I didn't mean to lead you on. I guess I just got excited to chat with you again. I'm sorry. I hope you're not upset. I'll always care for you, but it probably wasn't in our best interest to be dating. What? I looked at it, trying to calculate when this goof troop had time to start jumping to conclusions between bedtime and 6 a.m. Does this man sleep? Does he hear voices? How is it that he is actively disturbing me and asking me out and then back to being a nut job at the top of the morning? Why wasn't this revelation process before continuously hitting my line? So now I'm annoyed because I'm somehow being broken up for a second time at 6 a.m. by a man I'm not even dating, seeing, or bothering. And most importantly, whom I no longer even like, because the only thing I really liked about him in the first place was his consistency. What the am I supposed to do with an emotional crackhead? So I replied, I don't know where you seem to manufacture all this drama between us. These random breakup-like text messages, for lack of a better description, come off to me like real-time manifestations of your indecisiveness about whatever you feel about me or relationships or apprehension towards both. And I really don't need it. I like you as a human being outside of these incidents, and I'm fully capable of being just your friend and our romantic compatibility becoming a moot issue. Cool. 2 months later, he sends me an ad about banking in the Bahamas to tell me he was thinking about me, because those are the kinds of attenuated connections men try to make when they're looking for any reason to talk to you, that the country you're from be banking. Then, one Sunday, he tells me he's in my neighborhood and would like to grab a drink. We went to my favorite brunch spot and he complimented my nail polish color being his favorite color and informed me that he missed me. He missed our intellectual discussions and he thinks he made a mistake with the TV thing. Now, that would be all good and well, except no. I went out with him solely because I needed tea and explanations. What tea and explanations, you ask? I will tell you, good people. Prior to Luke asking me if I'd get a drink with him, I had randomly decided to read this blog. Now, Luke had a blog that I stopped reading after we stopped dating because it doesn't interest me outside of just being a supportive partner. Nevertheless, one night, I decided to read the latest post, and for the first time, Luke decided to tell a personal story. The article states by saying he got a text on Halloween from a woman he'd been dating on and off for a few months in New York City, and that her alias for the story was Michelle. Now, immediately, my lying ass nigga senses start tingling. I was suspicious, because Luke had only been living in New York City for one Halloween, and we damn sure were exclusively dating during that Halloween. But I just knew that even as an alias, that man would not get on Beyonce's internet and call my Nigerian ass Michelle. On top of that, I remember Halloween. I remember Halloween because this man told me he was going to a party in Hoboken and even sent me a picture in his costume. But I kept reading. Luke says that he texted Michelle and asked her what's up, and Michelle followed up by telling him she would like for them to try out her Ouija board. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. At this point, what started out as suspicion that Michelle was not me is certainty, because did I just read Ouija board? So now I know that this man is a cheater. That's enough to lock the door and throw away the key on him. But I keep reading. Michelle asked him if he wanted to try out her Ouija board, and this man, the same man who thought our relationship would collapse because I like TV, the same man says yes. Actually, I could do one better. What he exactly said was, I responded, I've never done Ouija before, but we could if you want. Of course, I didn't believe in any of this, but if Michelle wanted to come over again, why not? Word? You haven't gotten to conjuring up spirits before, but for Michelle, why not? Not only were you cheating, but you were cheating with Ouija board bitches. You've got to break up with me because I like TV, but you will summon the dead for Michelle. Yo, The article goes on to describe how Michelle arrives at his apartment, Ouija board in hand, and they turn off all the lights and begin unsuccessfully conjuring up spirits for like 5 minutes, much to her chagrin. Until eventually, Luke says he accidentally pushed a little planchette on the Ouija board and it moved so slightly. Luke described it as unnoticeable, but she felt it. And once she did, she insisted the spirit moved and would not listen to his protests. He goes on to say she begins moving the planchette herself for the next 10 minutes, insisting it's the spirit moving it, although he could physically see her moving it herself because, as he puts it, quote, she wanted to believe. Finally, after catching up with her old spirit friend, she's so freaked out that she leaves his apartment without even giving him no pussy. Now, Luke then used that story to explain some other bullshit, but f*** all that. Back to brunch. So I chit-chat him. I listened to his regretful I'm sorry that I previously told y'all was inevitable. But really, I was just waiting for the perfect moment to bring up my discovery. So immediately, once I bring it up, he started trying to do damage control, leading with, quote, admittedly, there was overlap. Followed by how it wasn't serious. It was just about hooking up because they didn't have anything in common because all they ever did together was watch horror movies, OTV, and smoke weed. He made a point to tell me she once left a restaurant during dinner to smoke multiple blunts. I'm not judging Shorty for that. Because those were the only things that she would do with him even though he doesn't like either thing. And they never saw each other after Halloween.
Is this it, Chief?
Look here, I know what he wanted me to hear. I get that he thought those would be mitigating factors, but what I heard was the man who told me he had to break up with me because I like TV, despite TV never playing a role in our relationship, was not only cheating, but cheating with a woman who exclusively watched TV with him, and they stopped seeing each other only because she walked out on their date with the afterlife. Needless to say, Luke and I did not work out. Let me ready y'all for my bullshit law school ex dog. The prelude to Aiden the Antichrist. If 5 out of 5 men play you, and they will, 4 out of 5 of them may have some critical design flaw or make some fatal mistake. But only one of them usually is just a genuinely f***ed up person with zero regard for others or remorse for their actions. It's usually only the one. And Aiden is that one. In dating, sometimes men do things that make you hate them or not want to know them anymore, but they aren't necessarily bad people overall or outside of their romantic relationships, or maybe even just their romantic relationship with you. That's what separates Aiden from every other man on this list. Aiden is a bad person, point blank, period. Raphael sold me some dream. You know what? This is 31-year-old me talking, not original script. Raphael probably is a little bit of a shitty person too, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I can see clearly now. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. But let's go back to the script. Raphael sold me dreams and wasted my time. And while I wholeheartedly can't stand him, I'm fully aware that he probably isn't a bad person. I can even concede that it's also entirely possible that his shittiness was limited to his interactions with me. Again, this is 31-year-old me talking again. Raphael was definitely a manipulative, gaslighting piece of shit. I want to remind y'all, that man was a therapist. He's actually bad. He's actually bad. Nowhere near as bad as Aiden, but he was bad. I wouldn't f with Raphael if it was the only way to save my life, but I also wouldn't karate kick him off a cliff. Paul was actually one of my favorite personalities of the men I've dated. While I have my theories about him being a decorated escape artist, but without concrete proof, if I just take him at his word, he could have been going through much deeper shit than he was able to juggle at the time, or he just didn't like me like that, and although no one likes being ghosted, I can sympathize. Now, Pablo was a parasite and a lunatic, but he wasn't inherently evil. I prefer he be at least 3 boroughs away from me at all times, and I hope to never see him again in this life. But still, I don't think the evil. Luke was full of shit, but nothing really revolutionary about that, him or the relationship. He was a little ridiculous to deal with, but people, even clowns, are entitled to their standards and preferences. And honestly, me and Luke are cool in real life. I like Luke. But after careful observation, necessary reflection, research, and intense study, I can tell you all that while on the surface, Aiden may appear to be a callous, selfish, neglectful, lying egomaniac suffering from the side effects of his obsession with hypermasculinity. If you look much deeper, deep into his soul, really peer in there, get a good look behind everything, you'll realize he's a much shittier person than you were giving him credit for. You gotta look past where the light touches with Aiden. Your problem is you looking at the pride lines when you need to be in the elephant graveyard to find Aiden. That's where he really gets in his bag. Piece of shit, okay? Last but certainly not least, let's meet Aiden the Antichrist. Aiden once said in real life, in a real ass fight, not a BET movie, he said to me, quote, "You knew who I was when you met me." That's who we're dealing with here, okay? I grappled with writing about Aiden because I wondered how I could bold-faced say, here's a list of the 5 worst men I've dated, and the only honest-to-God, consistently awful one on the list is the one that I was given at least 786 chances to pull it together, despite overwhelming empirical evidence not to. That would make me a goof troop, but that's what I'm telling you, okay? I'm owning this L. Honestly, I don't even think I gotta own this L. I think the statute of limitations is passing on all this shit from my 20s. But anyway, I don't throw around the word toxic relationship loosely. But this sure was one. I dated Aiden on and off throughout law school, and the only time he was not a shitty boyfriend and human being was for 2 months in the summer of 2017 and about 2 weeks in the spring of 2018. Our entire relationship consists of one gate after another. When I say gate, please think Watergate. We've had Samantha Gate, Stephanie Gate, Bree Gate, Gala Gates 1 and 2, Apartment Gate, I don't Love You Gate, Bumble Gate, MD Gate, Cancer Gate, Peppa Pig Gate, and finally, the last gate. They could all be their own dramatic stories, but I just cannot cover all that ground. It's exhausting because I hate him. I would call Aiden a sociopath if it weren't for the fact that sociopaths are usually charming, and nowhere in Aiden's body is there a charming bone. Aiden is one of those people that no one likes, and no one ever asks why people don't like him because everyone's on the same page as to why. He sucks. That's why. I'm gonna give it to you straight. I cannot stand Aiden in the air he breathes. If he were hanging off a cliff, I would road run his ass off that bitch. I searched my soul for something positive to say about him, so I'm here to tell you that he loves South Park. That's all I got. That's all I got. Aiden insists that the reason he can't love anyone and doesn't care about people is because his mother loved him too much as a child, and he resents her for it now. I swear to God, that's his actual plight. And that was not a shady paraphrase. Those were the words straight from the devil's mouth. When I say he does not care about people, I mean he's gone on record as saying he thinks the connection people claim to feel with their biological children is a myth, and that he would not care about his children innately, and he thinks both mentally ill and homeless people should be removed from society. Mind you, he's mentally ill as damn self. Additionally, he lives by the mantra, quote, there are 2 rules to life. You have to either be attractive or don't be attractive, end quote. Mind you, Aiden looks like Bonnie Rubble, but not in the way Bonnie Rubble was cuter and cooler than Fred, so he seemed attractive. I mean, he looks like what Bonnie Rubble would look like if he were a character in a movie based on a Roald Dahl book. If you're asking yourself, then why did you date him and for so long? I promise you that when my therapist and I, actually, when I originally wrote this, I said, I promise that when my therapist and I nail down an answer, I'll let you know. But honestly, I have full clarity on this now. I think, like, I honestly don't think I stopped to consider that I didn't, like, I knew I didn't like him. Like, I knew I didn't like his personality. I knew I didn't like him or whatever. And he just kind of like wore me down. And I think, like, while I was in law school, I was really, really depressed. Like, I was depressed. Like, my grandmother died. Law school was the worst of times. Like, I think, like, 20-something-year-old me was just like, you know, I don't know, child, doing shit. That's what I know. I understand it more now. Anyway, the best way to describe Aiden's personality is through stories. In 2016, I moved to a brand new apartment in Brooklyn. Aiden drove there, walked into my apartment, said no words, walked the full length of the apartment, investigated, turned red, and then shouted, "This apartment is whack as f***. I didn't enjoy the drive here because I had to take the Jackie Robinson highway, and I didn't like the scenery. I was hot because the AC in my car isn't working, and I had to search for parking, so you materially misled me about the parking," end quote. Yes, he dead ass did. Mind you, Aiden was living in an apartment fit for Scabbers the rat with his parents. Then he proceeded to look at my cat at the time, Brutus, rest in peace to my baby, whom I had just adopted at the time the day before, and he yelled, "And why the would you adopt a fat, toothless old cat when I sent you the kittens I like?"
This kind of behavior is never tolerated in Boracua. Right to jail, right away.
Then, Aiden placed a McDonald's ban on our relationship because he concluded that only in McDonald's did black men decide to hit on me so they could successfully challenge his masculinity. The first time, we were in a McDonald's in Bushwick late one night and a group of teenage black boys yelled at him that his bitch was bad. Now, I ignored them, but he turned red immediately, and I've been down this road with him before, so I started packing up the food immediately so we could bounce. Now, he worked up the nerve to yell back at them, "Shut the f*** up," and then burst out laughing and his spirit died. He whined for the rest of the night about feeling like a bitch for not fighting them, despite me repeatedly explaining to him he did not need to, nor did I want him to. But alas, the perils of buying into toxic masculinity. The straw that broke his back, though, was one night he ordered McDonald's via Uber Eats. The Uber Eats walker, not driver, walker, because sometimes Uber Eats does bullshit like give you someone who walks and delivers the food if it's in the neighborhood. Anyway, the Uber walker was late, so Aiden, being a snitch, called Uber Eats and complained. Now, as a result, Uber Eats called the walker and told him that Aiden snitched. Now, in fairness to Aiden, he could not have anticipated the powerful level of real at work, because I'm assuming this was the walker's first job and no one ever told him the customer's always right, because he sure did call Aiden and curse him the entire out. Aiden sat there and took his cursing out in horrified silence. Shortly after the call ended, we got the notification that the walker arrived with the food, and Aiden was shook. Aiden asked me to go out and get it because he was scared the walker would confront him.
You are the coward.
So I got outside to get the food, and the Uber guy is this like 18-year-old black kid. He sees me and he starts trying to be flirty. So I say, no, don't try that, when he was just cursing out my dude. And he says, I'm sorry. I was literally walking from McDonald's here, and he's out here calling my job trying to get me in trouble. And you know how they go. They being white people. And yes, I do know how they go. Nevertheless, I checked the kid, I got the food, and I went inside to Aiden. I casually told Aiden about the encounter, thinking it was funny, and he was pissed. He starts going off, and the next thing I know, he's on the phone with Uber snitching again.
Hell no.
Like, bro, have you learned nothing? You really need the Uber Eats guy to walk back and beat your ass this time? I was sitting there letting him snitch in peace. But then he demands that Uber fire the kid because he flirted with his girlfriend and because he was racist. The Uber walker was racist towards him, a white man. I said, oh no. When he gets off the phone, I'm half laughing because it's so absurd, but I try to say to him that his actions were wild and disproportionate, and it blew up like The Godfather. He stood up, red in the face, swole in the chest, in my Captain America bro tank and his baby blue jockeys, and screamed, everything is a problem with you. We can't ever go to McDonald's. We're never going to McDonald's. Every time we eat McDonald's, it's a problem.
Daddy, chill.
Oh, wow. He's a snitch, but now me and McDonald's are the problem. Snitching is a problem for him in general, though. Not because he's a snitch, but because he don't like stitches. The one time we went to Six Flags, we drove to New Jersey, spent at least 3 hours on the road in traffic, and spent a few $100s on passes. So we got on the line for the first roller coaster, and this small teenage couple tried to skip us on the line. I didn't care, but Aiden tried to tell the girl, who was small and wearing a giant hoodie that looked to me was meant to cover up a pregnancy some neglectful parents somehow hadn't noticed. But he tried to tell her that she couldn't skip the line, and she turned around immediately and said, F you.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9.
Let's stop right there. Well, let's stop right there for a moment, people. Let's talk about battle choosing. If someone comes right out the gate with you, their level 1 is you should just bow out gracefully if you're not about that life, as Aiden isn't. Anyway, Aiden responds to this by entering the snitching Olympics. He literally starts repeatedly jumping up and down, like pointing at them, telling security they were skipping. Now, as this is happening, I'm silently watching all of this go down. In my mind, my boyfriend is clearly jumping up and down in broad daylight in the eyes of his enemies. I see him, they see him, surely he knows they see him. So these are his choices, and he must be fine with that. The security guard pulls the kids out of the line and moves them to the back of the line. Now here's the issue with that. We were at the back of the line. So now these kids are in the line, mad as standing right behind us. So the girl starts calling Aiden all kinds of bitch ass and hoes and whatnot. Mind you, these are kids, so I'm not paying them any mind. All of a sudden, Aiden turns red and starts pacing back and forth. Then he stops and says to me, do you want to just go? I stare back at him and I go, you mean leave? Nick, we just got here. We spent $300. We drove for hours. We haven't gone on a single ride. Aiden says, yeah, but if we stay here, they're going to keep saying stuff to me.
Police, get what you fucking deserve.
So I go, I'll handle it. Don't say anything else to them. So then I had to curse out 2 16-year-old children so this grown man could ride a roller coaster without having a nervous breakdown.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word.
These are just a few of the highlights from Aiden's Hall of Fame that went down, with other legendary moments like the time my friend sent me a photo of him trying to hit on a lesbian and eventually getting so drunk he passed out drunk in his Superman jockeys in a hotel room that wasn't his, or the time he cursed me out for 3 days because I wasn't smiling in a New Year's picture, which apparently made it a thought picture because, quote, only candid pictures are on thought pictures, only for my friend to send me a screenshot of him on Bumble in a towel with the outline of his flaccid penis for all to swipe left on, or the time he decided 3 years into the relationship to move to the boonies, made me spend months applying for jobs there only to send me a text saying, quote, I want to break up. I don't have the time or energy for a relationship, and upon further reflection, I don't want you to move with me. So we broke up shortly before he moved to the boonies because on my 25th birthday, he told me to dress up for my birthday plans. Then he picked me up, handed me a giant green gift bag, and when I opened it, do you know what was inside? You know how Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid all keep those little beanie toys by the register? That's what that got me. This man stopped by a damn Walgreens on the way to my house and picked up a Peppa Pig toy from the register and gave me that shit. He put that teeny tiny toy in this giant green gift bag and handed it to me.
I am going to explode in 6 seconds.
Dog, it's so crazy when you realize a mother hates you. And so I looked at him and I remember for the first time in my life, dog, I was almost speechless. I looked at it, I said, why? Why would you get me a Peppa Pig? And he replied, because you like Peppa Pig. I like Peppa Pig? Not only is Peppa Pig a goddamn children's show, but it's not even a children's show from my childhood. Why the would I like Peppa Pig? We rode in silence to our destination. And do you know where our destination was, people? Do you remember the man told me to dress up for my bake plans? His brother's house. The destination was his brother's house. This man went inside and started watching TV with his brother, and they ordered takeout. Then the next morning, he got up bright and early and left my house because he told me he had to take his boys to the beach. He taking his boys to the beach. He got me a toy and took me to his brother's house, but he's up bright and early to take mine to the beach. That was the end. I sent him a breakup text message and blocked him before he could respond, and that was that. But you know what's the worst part about all of that? I went to my best friend Nia's house to show her this Peppa Pig and tell her what happened. And this bitch breaks the news to me that he didn't give me Peppa Pig. This gave me George Pig, a supporting cast member of Peppa Pig. And he left the $11.99 price tag on it. Oh my God. If I could have set the world on fire, I would have. Now, months later, he messaged me telling me how depressed he was in the boonies because he has absolutely no friends. He wasn't performing well on his job, and quote, he hates himself for always ruining us with his neuroses. And he'd gained 40 pounds, child. So me, Captain Fix-It, started talking to him again, and we start our whole get back together routine. He comes to New York and we spend a whole week together. The following week, I'm sitting in my office, minding my business, and my friend walks in and just says, hey, did you see Aiden's new profile picture he just uploaded with his new girlfriend? Excuse me, what? What? She said, yeah, he uploaded the picture on Facebook. You didn't know? No, I didn't know. I tell her to never say his name again to me in this life. I had Aiden blocked on Facebook since the New Year's Star picture incident years earlier. So I had to reactivate my Facebook and unblock him to discover that, holy shit, this lying son of the greatest bitch. All the pictures. They had all the pictures, a Facebook relationship status, all that. I'm not sure when was the last time at that time that I'd ever been that mad, but it's heated, blind rage. And when I tell y'all I packed up my things and Ubered home because I can't be crying at work on the subway. So I messaged a girl, hey, I see you're Aiden's new girlfriend because one of our friends just came into my office and told me because they were as shocked as I am. You probably don't know who I am because I'm assuming he's been dishonest with you as well. But I'm his ex-girlfriend on and off of the last few years. But I see y'all are together since at least September, and I was just with him last week. So do with that information what you may. I just figured you deserve to at least know and order your steps, however. So I sent the message and blocked her too because I said what I need to say. She didn't do anything to me, and I had no desire to turn us into Whitney Houston and Deborah Cox, okay? So I emailed him and quote, I'm not even gonna run on with you because I think so little of you now, but I'm just giving you a heads up that I both know about your girlfriend and I informed her your trifling ass. Let this be known. No matter how depressed you ever get, no matter when you next feel like a shitty person, no matter how poorly you continue to perform on your job, no matter what comes of your relationship with friends and family, no matter if you ever get cancer again, because that's a story for another time, no matter what ill befalls you, I will never care. Don't speak to me again in this life. I will never forgive you. You deserve all the self-loathing you feel, and if you're lucky, old girl isn't so blessed to find a better man and she stays with you and you could grow old in misery together. You're really as small of a man as you've always felt you are, and it's a damn shame I ever wasted any energy trying to convince you otherwise. I see why you say you have no one in the world you can be 100% open with, because who could ever love and accept what you really are? Because when it really boils down to it, you really are just weak as Now, I didn't even stop to read it over, just typed it in a fury, sent the email and blocked him on my phone, on Facebook Messenger, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Gmail, Google Chat, threw out all his things and deleted every text, email, photo, and trace of him. Then, a couple of weeks later, I was sitting in the bar with my sister and friends and I got a message request on Facebook. Immediately, I just knew it was a girl coming to me as a woman. And sure enough, the message read, hey, I know this is weird. I'm messaging you to let you know that Aiden recently gave me chlamydia. I didn't know he had a girlfriend when we were seeing each other. And when I found out, I messaged her. She told me that you and another girl had messaged her. I then got tested and was diagnosed today. Listen, I had never been so happy in my goddamn life, because if y'all could have seen me when I read that message, I was sitting there laughing like a damn anime villain when they think they've won, okay? Because as a matter of fact, this is an actual gif from the video I sent my sister outside of the bar telling them about it. You have to understand, I had already been tested post Aiden and confirmed that I didn't have anything. Which should tell you, by the way, just how much bitches he was running around with, like, immediately after me. But anyhow, so this message was just like Jesus letting me be a fly on the wall when not one, not two, but 3 bitches are John Tucker Mustayan him. I couldn't have prayed for a better day. So I replied, hey girl, wow, he's so damn trifling. Thank you for letting me know. She replied, of course, you're welcome. What a dick, LOL. I replied, LOL, I've washed my hands of him. It's a damn shame. And she replied, same, boy, bye. For the next 2 weeks, nothing could bring me down. I'd wake up and think, this and his harem of bitches have chlamydia and all is right in the world because life sure ain't going how we planned. And that was enough for me to smile every day. I've never spoken to him again, and I never will since the last email I sent. But you know, I will say this, he is down the fuck bad. Like, obviously we went to law school together, so like, my friends be giving updates. Woof, woof. Oof, that girl, the girl he put his status in as his girlfriend, child, he went on and like married her in a quickie wedding. She left him. He lost his job. He ain't had no job since. No, child, man is down the bad. But anyway, listen, I hope y'all had a good time with this. This has been 5 terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, super raggedy men. Tell me in the comments your stories about the men y'all have dated like this.